Unlike last week, here we go. So welcome everybody. Happy Thursday. I am Colin Weston. I am the community leader for Startup Vancouver, and thank you for joining us for our 17th episode. Hard to believe, 17 episodes, Maryam. We're already deep into it here, of what keeps you up at night, entrepreneurship during challenging times. We are going to have two fantastic guests. We always have fantastic guests, but today the guests we have, I'm really happy to engage in this conversation with. So rather than sharing the screen as I normally do and fumble about with that, I'm just going to use my words and move my hands around in the air to talk about, as an introduction, who we're going to have on today and what's going to happen. So again, I'm the community leader of Startup Vancouver, which is one of over 40 chapters of Startup Canada across the country, and we are the voice of the 3.5 million entrepreneurs in Canada. If you want to connect with us and get a hold of us, best way to do that is through social media. We're very active on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we just launched our YouTube channel. So you can see all previous episodes and other content that we're putting together there. So if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, because we're gonna have all kinds of great content that we're creating, not just for Vancouver entrepreneurs, but all across the country here. This is an interactive and engaging half an hour conversation. So although Maryam and I will be talking to our two guests, please, in chat on Zoom or also on Facebook in the comments there, if you have any questions, put them out there. And if you're not shy, and if you want us to open up the mic, we will actually do that so you can ask the question yourself. One other thing, we are very proud to have as our charity partner, jack.org, which is an advocacy group for mental health awareness for youth across the country and the territories in Canada. So we've managed to raise over $400 for them so far, and people that donate on Eventbrite as an option, we thank you for that, and hopefully you continue to do that. So with that, our two guests today are Dan Zollmann, who is the co-founder and CEO of Qase, and also we have Beth Hall, and Beth does all kinds of interesting things. I believe a registered counselor, an artist, as you'll see in the background there. Here, I'll actually quickly go to our gallery view here. She's got all kinds of fantastic things in the back there of what she does, and as far also as a high performance coach. And Maryam's going to be talking to her. So with that, I am now going to hand it over to my co-host on Thursdays, Maryam Mobini, to introduce herself, and then she's going to launch into a conversation with Beth.
Thank you so much, Colin, and it's a pleasure to be here with you on this journey. And welcome, Dan and Beth. It's good to have you here, Beth. We've known each other for quite some time now, and please tell us a little bit more about what you do, and tell us about what's happening and what do you do?
Yeah, well, I always start off by what I absolutely love, and that's understanding what it really means to be human. And it's like, we all have things going on underneath the surface, and all the things that we stockpile and hide and don't want to talk about. And the space that I hold for founders and entrepreneurs, leaders in the community, creatives, and everyday people as well, is that space to really dig in. And I believe that we have the capacity to design our life. And so architect your life is what has emerged. And it's been a deep and fun journey for myself as well. I am a scientist by background and my training, and bring that rigor to investigating the human experience. And so really holding that big space for people to step into their fullest vision. And, you know, we really get in our own ways. We're the thing that blocks us the most, and the patterning that we take on in life. And so really working with people to move beyond that and do what's courageous.
So true. And I'm wondering what you've been noticing the theme has been with your clients since the pandemic has started, because there's so much uncertainty and anxiety out there. And I'm noticing, is there anything that has changed in the conversation, or anything you're noticing that is different?
Well, one of the things, I mean, the anxiety is high. It's very high for people. And I've noticed a lot of men have actually been coming. I've had an influx, a massive influx actually in the last few weeks. And it was interesting because at the beginning of COVID, people sort of were jumping ship left, right, and center. There was so much uncertainty, what is happening, and the financial strains and stresses that everybody was experiencing. And now people have settled a little bit and they've had time to reflect as well, and really looking at their lives, looking at their businesses, how they're running that, wanting to dig deeper into purpose, and how do they be that leader for their team? How do they bring that to their team? And relationships as well, really wanting to do better and see better in their relationships, and dealing with some of the stuff that's been sitting there for a while.
I'm noticing that, because we've had this time to reflect, and as you're saying, there's a lot that is coming up, that many of us don't want to go back to how things were. And that whole notion of 9 to 5 is not working. And I know the last 9 to 5 job I had was 2006. And being a highly sensitive person and creative, I just felt so limited by that time frame of, well, maybe I do my best work at nighttime, or maybe I'm going for a walk and I don't want to be in the office, right? So are there any sort of realizations, anything that you're seeing around that is coming up with your clients? Are they shifting to maybe working on their own ventures, or if you could tell us about that?
I mean, one of the things is, we've been forced to look at things differently, and with COVID and just everyone being at home, and children, jumping into scene, and pets and this and that and the other, there's like a reality that people are we're able to be a little bit more real. We've been forced to be more real, and it's giving us the opportunity to look at things differently. And like you were saying with the 9 to 5 and how we operate, there's and even taking time to go for the walk, to allow the ideas to emerge. I think when we take the perspective of looking at solutions and being team focused, so much more can come out of that. And, the traditional way of business and doing things, and the culture that we've kind of been immersed in, is very rigid, and KPIs that don't necessarily even mean anything. And this is an opportunity to really stand for something different. And I always love that statement too, is like, what are we standing for? Like, what are we actually creating, versus like pointing fingers at the problem and just like circling around in that.
So true. And we were talking about earlier about toxic environment and that theme that is coming up. And if you could tell us a little bit about that, and how we can realize that we are in a toxic environment, and how can we become aware of it, notice it, and how can we protect ourselves and our energy?
Well, I think, one of the biggest things as leaders is that it's the time and the moment to step up. And it's actually a very courageous thing, because to create space for our team members, it takes something, right? Like, every turn we take, it's like that reminder of how I should be operating. And so to let go of the shoulds is a rewiring. So there's this personal accountability piece that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
There was one other thing that just totally escaped my mind that I was going to say.
I think there was something around, we were talking earlier about toxic environment, and thinking how once we become aware of it, what are the steps, how to become aware of it, that we're in one, and how can we preserve and protect our energy? We were talking about energy before.
Yeah. Well, it's tough when we figure out that we are in a toxic environment too. There's two opportunities there. One is, what is my contribution, and how can I show up differently? How can I use this as a learning experience, and not just run away from the problem to then recreate it somewhere else? Because often, if we're allowing ourselves to be in a toxic environment, there's a reason why we're tolerating that. So looking internally, why are we tolerating that? Why are we letting that be? And then really digging in and looking at, okay, well, what are my values? What is necessary for me to thrive, and not stepping over this? And so we see this in work environments, we see this in relationships, and it's like that inner reflection. And, it's hard for us to do that on our own sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So getting the help to really dig into what our values are.
So what has been keeping you up at night during this time?
You know, it's been a time for me personally where I have really prioritized my health and getting outside. I have been sticking to the course for myself. So for me, I have been sleeping well in general, but really taking that time. I think part of why I have been sleeping well is because I am doing the things that are really healing and nurturing. Like there's massive shifts and just chaos and frankly just weirdness going on in the world right now. Like whether people are financially secure or not, it is a strange world right now, and we have to acknowledge what is. And it might mean that you need to take a nap in the middle of the day, and that sort of plays into, again, like, what is a 9 to 5? Like if you're not effective in a 9 to 5, but you can take care of yourself, take a nap and take a walk and do what you need to do and be productive, then we have to start opening our minds to that.
Yeah, so true. It's just listening to your body and see what your body needs and give it just that.
Yeah.
And you can show up and be more productive that way, right?
Yeah.
And I know you do a lot of cycling as well. And are there top 3 books that you could recommend to our audience that would be really helpful at this time, or that has inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of my favorites is Brene Brown, and what she brings to the table. She's working with the top companies in the world, and to see her success and how that's opening the door for all of us to do the same, I recommend her to everybody. And she's got Dare to Lead, as well as a whole bunch of other ones that dig in more on the personal side as well. I would recommend any of her books. The Untethered Soul.
I love that.
Yes. Yeah, by Michael Singer. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. So really, it's like, for me, it's getting underneath the shame, right? Like we've been so programmed, and we resist being ourself, right? We're so like this. We can get into the attachment of that, but we'll leave that for another day. But you know, there's a reason why we want to keep those bonds and stay safe, but it really ends up just confining us. And so these books are really good at sort of breaking open space to be real, to be human, to be who you're meant to be. And that's everything that I stand for.
And not see it as weakness, you know?
No, yeah.
Like being vulnerable, being empathetic and compassionate is not weakness, actually. Being a good leader.
The complete it's absolute strength. And never have I ever seen a person who's jumped in to have a difficult conversation who is weak. They are the one who is strong in the group. Definitely.
Thank you, Beth. I'm just going to check in with Colin and Dan to see if they have any questions.
Love the conversation. And thank you for giving a shout out to naps. I am a big fan of naps. I have for years considered naps as something that one shouldn't do, that you should spend your time kind of pedal to the metal. My background also in design, going to architecture school, was always pulling all-nighters, you know, that badge of honor of putting the hours in, and then of course transporting that over to entrepreneurship, that same thing. And I know, Dan, you've probably been involved with this for years because you've been an entrepreneur for some time, is we need to get away from that. We talk about balance, but really it's about harmony and self-care and, self-love. And it is a marathon, as we'll start to talk to Dan. Dan didn't start Qase last Thursday. Dan's been at it for some time. He is what's the classic cliche, is like overnight success, years in the making, right? And that's definitely the case. So yeah, thank you for sharing all that. And we always encourage all the entrepreneurs out there during, not only these uncertain times, but just in general, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, right? If you don't have, an active mind and an active body, right? Whatever it is that you're creating, yourself and your team, it's not going to be sustainable, and it's not going to be there for the long term. So the ups and downs of this entrepreneurial journey that we're all on, in whatever sector we're involved in, you got to take care of yourself. And sometimes taking a nap is the way to go, which maybe I'll do that. Maybe at 12:01, I'll actually take a nap. I'm for it.
Sounds good.
Yes. Hashtag more naps.
More siestas.
There we go, right? Yeah, the Spanish have it right? Latina culture, got it figured out.
Say no,
Absolutely.
Beth.
Well, Beth, thank you for that. Miriam, thank you also for that interview. That was, I learned a lot. That was super engaging, and really appreciate that. So now we're going to flip it over to Dan Zollmann, who I mentioned is the CEO and founder of Qase, and Justin Qase. I can't believe I just said that, Dan. I can't help myself. If you're not familiar with all the good things that that Qase does, as Dan touched on this earlier when we were talking, but I guess the tagline, if I could do a pitch, I know, Dan, you're doing a pitch later on, but really your Qase helps Canadians connect with experienced lawyers and provides everything needed to get legal services online. So that's my pitch for your pitch. So Dan, perhaps you could quickly introduce yourself and see if you can actually do an even better job of saying what you do and why you do it with Qase.
Well, and Colin, thanks very much. And I don't think I could do a better pitch, so I'll just have to get you to pitch for me this afternoon as well. But I will say that I'm actually I'm an engineer by training, a management consultant by vocation, and I got into the world of helping improve access to legal services, both as a business opportunity, but also kind of as a passion. And I really experienced this as an entrepreneur, the times when I needed legal help, I needed it fast, and I needed it wherever I was. And especially when I was doing management consulting, that at any given time, could be like on several different continents. And I was really distressed by how hard it was to both find and to work with lawyers. And so, the Qase has been a business opportunity for us, but it's also very much been a passion.
So it sounds like the pain point that you experienced personally is the motivation for the founding of Qase. So you are your own persona, I guess, that you defined your own problems and then realized through customer discovery, because we've had conversations before, that you're not the only one that actually has this problem.
And it's it's also a bit of a flyer. It's tough. I think entrepreneurs who generalize off of their need and say, okay, well, therefore everybody on the planet needs it. That can be a little bit risky, but unfortunately the data is really pretty distressing. So over half of people are going to wind up with an everyday legal problem in any given 3-year period, and it could be it could be a divorce, it could be an employment issue, it could be immigration. Only 1 in 5 of them wind up getting help from a lawyer, and the rest of them just lump it.
Right.
And so there's a really serious access to justice problem. And some of this is financial, but a lot of it is, can we make, accessing legal services as easy as, booking something on Airbnb or buying something on, on Etsy or whatever it is. And right now that's not the current state of practice.
Got it. So let's rewind the tape here to the second week of March, when a little thing called COVID-19 kind of locked us all indoors. You were cruising along with Qase, and I know it's even in March, you're getting involved with the New Ventures BC, which you've made it to the round of 25. Congratulations on that. I know you got a pitch afterwards here. So yes, happy to pitch, although we didn't make it to the round of 25. I don't know, you're better pitching than I am. So I don't know if you want to bring me on board for that. I think you stick with yourself. So
I should just switch.
There we go. So second week in March, what I would see with what you're providing with Qase, I would think that the paradigm shift, kind of this crazy inflection point that hit like overnight, would be a benefit to your business model. So can you talk a bit about what you saw as opportunity, how you recalibrated certain things, or you just doubled down on what you're doing, and how that the COVID has affected your team with Qase? I know there's a couple questions there, but perhaps you can kind of give us some feedback there.
Sure. So I'll really try to get back to that point. And I first I have to start by saying the whole situation was kind of horrifying because I remembered what happened with SARS and just had a sense of what this could be. And I think all of us, it was one of the terrible advantages that we had in Canada, that the US did not really experience SARS the way that we did here in Canada, and therefore I started watching it, closely in a little bit in January and closely in February, and by the time March hit, it was like, this is scary for all of us on this planet. This is a very scary situation to be, and from there we faced this kind of terrible dilemma in that here's a global pandemic. We just started our first external fundraise. This is going to crush us as far as our ability to raise funds. How are we going to survive? How do we extend our runway? At the same time as we feel like we've been voices in the wilderness for the last 3 years saying, you can do law online. You don't need to sit with your lawyer to do it. This should all be virtual. And now we have the world moving in that direction and saying, please, actually, we're more relevant than ever. And we'd actually just signed an agreement with the Alameda County Bar Association in the San Francisco Bay Area. And for Qase to power their existing law referral platform, we were set to basically kind of launch with some stuff in September. And they asked us if we could move it up to April. And so, okay, so it's a global pandemic. Our team is now deconstructed. We're worried about our runway, but we have this fantastic opportunity, and we're being asked to basically see if we can get virtual pro bono clinics up and running for Alameda County in 3 weeks, so that they can continue to serve their community of 1.8 million people who are all themselves going to be facing the legal consequences of COVID. So, layoffs, evictions, all kind of family stress, wills, awful things that we have to face from the pandemic. So yeah, March was a crazy soup of different competing challenges, both opportunities and threats.
Yeah. So what I find really, really interesting about this and hearing things through the lens that you see things through the legal services and legal profession and sector, that I've heard this in many other sectors also, myself being in that sport tech, sport innovation realm, that I was on my podcast a couple of months ago with a founder of a global sports accelerator. And he made this interesting analogy. He said, it's like putting us all in a time machine and fast forwarding us to 2030, where in every single industry we'd have, this workplace transformation is very slow. And I'm sure, Beth, you see this also, that it seems like you're ahead of the curve and on the bleeding edge, almost to the point of being very difficult for you to move your business and consultancy forward. And this guy said, it's like all of a sudden now, instead of 2 years from now, 3 years, we'll watch what other people are doing. Maybe we'll slowly integrate that in 5 years. Like, no, we got to do this now, like now. And just hearing that from you, that everything is like ramped up because there is no choice. Everything in the middle has been cut out, that it's got to be a great opportunity for you. But at the same time too, I guess it's almost like they're asking you to have, using this analogy of having 9 women make a baby in a month type of thing. It's like, how do we do that? Is that even possible? Which, by the way, I know that 9 women cannot make a baby in a month. I am aware of that. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we definitely, there has been this, I guess I can say, as I was thinking about what keeps me up at night as a result of this, it's that constant prioritizing, reprioritizing again, dynamically as, as events unfold on the ground. And so you have to maintain this incredible degree of agility, in order to navigate the threats and to realize the opportunities as they present themselves. So that's constant. So when I am not sleeping, which unfortunately, and it's great to hear, Beth, what you were saying, and I'm thinking about taking some deep breaths as a result. But when I'm not sleeping, I'm thinking, okay, so what's the path? How do I adjust the path? Because there's no clear and easy path here. We just have to constantly be adapting as the situation changes.
Nice. Thanks for that response. Hey, Maryam, and also Beth, I want to open this up to you. Maryam, I know you always have great follow-up questions to our guests here. First, I want to ask, are there any questions today from any of our attendees, or are they being a little bit shy today?
They're being a little bit shy today, but I have a question. Dan, you've been at this for a long time, and obviously with the entrepreneurial journey, there are all these highs and lows. And but you're consistent, you keep at it. And I'm wondering at your lows, what kept you going? What snapped you out of that state you were in?
Wow, it's a great question because the highs and lows come fast and frequent, and I can tell you, the last few months it has truly been both. So first off, it's passion for what we're doing, and I think that that's always motivated me in my past life running transformation projects and then as an entrepreneur as well. There's just a passion behind what we're doing. I want to see what we're doing succeed. I want it to exist. And so I just try to find a way to I've already forgiven myself for my failures based on failures from 20 years ago. And what I can say is, if this were easy, it will already have been done, right? And the fact that what we take on as entrepreneurs, by virtue of being an entrepreneur, you're building something that doesn't exist. So, yeah, failing is part of it. You just keep trying to succeed.
And do you think that you thrive in uncertainty?
I don't think it's the uncertainty per se. I think it's more that challenge of trying to solve the problem. And the problem we're trying to solve is, build something from nothing. And every day that offers new challenges. So it's constant learning, constant growth. You're always being asked to step up your game. Somebody I read said, if you're not embarrassed of who you were 12 months ago, you're not trying hard enough. And that's what this brings to me. And that gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. And do you have a lot of mentors?
I'm really fortunate. I've got some fantastic mentors, and I've got to do a shout out to New Ventures BC. I'm still in contact with people who I met with NVBC a year ago. There's just so many people to reach out to, and that was one of the mistakes I made early on. Or a newbie mistake was being too inwardly focused as opposed to outwardly focused. And there's so many people in the community to learn from, and that's why what you're doing is so awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And I have to agree with Dan completely. When I started out on my entrepreneurial journey, I didn't reach out for help, and that's so important. And there's two types of people, and some of them are because they're either arrogant or their ego, or they think, oh, I can do it all. Where I was kind of opposite, where I just didn't want to inconvenience anybody or kind of bother them. And then learning, and part of that strength and courage that you develop, that Beth had touched on, is being vulnerable and just putting yourself out there. Is I need help. I don't know this. I've got gaps. And it's amazing when you put yourself out there, how many people are willing to help and how many people are willing to share with their experience. And mentors are so important in building those relationships, which, just like the sign behind us here, you can see connecting people to each other and the resources. That's what we do. That's kind of my passion and my purpose with the volunteer work I do with Startup Vancouver. And it's been so rewarding. And I've met all of you awesome people, along with hundreds, if not thousands of others that otherwise I wouldn't even know existed, or I wouldn't have a point to even have a conversation with. So I'm extremely grateful for having this opportunity to have the show, and for having Maryam on Thursdays and Reza on Tuesdays to support us and make this thing kind of awesome, because it kind of is. So it's fun.
It's been a fun journey for sure.
Yeah.
And it's always really good to work with people who are doing amazing stuff and just amazing work, and just seeing them keep going also makes you want to be better and show up the best version of yourself, and so it's great. It's not just here, but I feel that even in social media too, people say that social media has like it could have, negative effects. And sure, I mean, you could have addiction, but it depends who you're surrounding yourself with on your social media too. Who are you following? What are the messages that you're being exposed to, right? I mean, there are so many amazing people that I'm following. And when I open my social media, I just get a hit of positive messages. that, it just makes me want to do more and show up in the best way possible.
It's really good. Well, hey, we're at the top of the hour. As always, our two guests, we'd probably talk for another half an hour, 3 hours if we wanted to. We would like to keep this short and sharp over the lunch hour here on the West Coast. I do want to thank our attendees today. I do see a couple of them by name with Masa and Michael and Zoran. Next time, ask some questions because we want to hear what you're thinking. And you want to hear what's keeping you up at night. So I do want to thank Dan and Beth. I am not going to do a musical shout out today because we didn't get any donations. You know what? I don't do that for free. You got to pay for that. You got to earn that. So I will keep my vocal cords loose and ready for next time. And with that, I want to hand it over to Maryam to end the show today.
Thank you so much, Colin, and thank you, Dan and Beth, for being here today, and everyone that can find you. We have shared your websites, and they can get in touch with you through Startup Vancouver. And we'll see you every Tuesday and Thursday at 12:30 right here, and you can catch us on our YouTube channel as well, Startup Vancouver. Thank you so much for being here. Have a lovely day.
Thanks so much.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.